Welcome to another episode of Business Over Brew. I'm your host, Nick Dar. Pleased to be joined in this episode by Craig Cottingham from Minas Coffee. Craig, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
I guess we should start with, we've got a really sweet bag of coffee here. Big Z Media Coffee.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, somebody actually picked that. So as you can see in the picture behind, we did a coffee tasting, and this is what we do when we actually go to Brazil. We actually taste coffees. So we put 5 coffees on the table. And hey, this is what you came out with. Of course, all the coffees were phenomenal, but this is the one that really struck it to you, that stood out versus the other ones. So now it's we actually are farmers from Brazil, but we also partner with other coffee countries around the world. So Rwanda is one of them, Ethiopia, Costa Rica. So I mean, it's called the Bean Belt. So a lot of times people don't realize that all the coffee comes from about the same latitude above north and south of the equator. So that's where the coffee is the sweet spot. So the only coffee in the U.S. that's actually grown is actually in Hawaii. So which is very, very pricey. So
right. Well, I want to talk about that whole process because that was really fun. But talk just a little bit about your personal work history and how you ended up with Minas.
So kind of for me, I've been in this area as well since 1978. My dad moved here. He's 20-year Navy vet from, we moved from Virginia, and got into retail, 30 years of retail, and Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot. I actually worked at the Alton Lowe's for quite a while. Actually when the Home Depot came in town. So, but anyways, met Bruno Nobre, who is actually the owner of Minas Espresso. His dad actually farms coffee in Brazil. I got to go to the farm in 22 and actually got to pull coffee off the tree. So phenomenal experience. Brazil is an amazing country, and just that process to understand, true farm to cup. So, but Bruno and I met at church. We're also a part of African Vision of Hope. That's been around for over 20 years, and they service the kids in Zambia. And so I'm actually kind of trying to get Bruno to do coffee in Zambia, because Zambian coffee is phenomenal. So what we would do is teach the kids how to basically start a farm and then cultivate the farm. And then basically we would give them premium for the coffee. And then, they have sustainability with jobs and stuff like that too. And then be able to provide for and build even more. So, but Bruno and I met at church, and he was actually serving coffee at church. And I said, this is amazing coffee. My wife and I attended his grand opening, which was April 28, 2018. And she even wrote in his book, awesome coffee, customers for life. Good luck with your business. And I said that day, I was like, you need to hire me as your warehouse manager. And he's like, oh no, I'm too small. I can't afford anybody. So crazy thing is right in the middle of COVID, I was a regional manager for a company in St. Louis, and he said, hey, I'm ready. I'm like, okay, I'll put in my 2 weeks. I'm ready to go. He's like, no. And that was in September of 2020. And he said, oh no, I'm looking at February of 21. I'm like, January of 21. He's like, no. He goes, that's my business plan. So February 1st, 2021, I started there. And it's been just to the sky with everything else. So
what was your coffee consumption like before working there?
I drank coffee, but I wasn't the connoisseur that I am now. So
just the regular stuff that, I guess.
I think I did. I did some pour overs because some friends of mine, they did pour overs and stuff like that. So you get a lot of better notes out of it. So instead of just going into a pot, a lot of people, one of the biggest things that you can just change your game on coffee. And I hate to even say some of the store-bought coffees, because so much love and hard work goes into every, harvesting the coffee. Our coffee is actually harvested by hand.
Right.
Other big commercial farms, which we went to, have a thing that goes over it. Like somebody said, it's like a pecan shaker. So it actually shakes it. But the hard work that goes into it. So if somebody would just take their Keurig or their Mr. Coffee or whatever, the glass pot, and you get like an air pod or something that you can pour it into right away instead of letting it sit on that cooker. So once it sits on that burner, and I've even just shared it with restaurants around the country. I'm like, look, I said, if you get a pot that brews into an air pod, it'll hold it for hours and it'll keep it fresh. You're still supposed to change it over about every hour and a half, every 90 minutes, just to stay fresh. But overall, it's going to stay warm. But so many times, if you leave it on a glass pot, if you go into a restaurant, breakfast restaurant, whatever, and you see it with a glass pot, chances are I mean, I know they're turning some coffee. I understand that.
Right.
But, it's funny. I went to a place in Arkansas and I said, hey, I just want to give you some advice. And, if you could just go with the almost like a Yeti pot. And so it keeps it warm. And she's like, yeah. No, we turn that coffee so fast. I'm like, okay. I said, and I sat there and watched it for 15 minutes. So again, it's not about, I'm just trying to help you make your business better.
Right.
Even if it's just a piece of advice to better your experience for your customers.
Well, we went through the tasting process as we were developing the Big Z Media or Business Over Brew brand, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was, I guess, a little bit surprised by is because I put like sweet and low and cream in my coffee, because it's regular store-bought coffee is pretty bitter.
Yeah.
But this was not. This was pretty sweet.
So
it doesn't need anything.
That's the thing with, coffee comes from a cherry. So some people have asked, oh, I can make coffee out of Bing cherries. No, that's a totally different thing. So coffee actually it's a cherry. I wish I had a picture of it, but it's red like this, and there's also different varieties. So it's called, like, this would be a red Katui or a yellow Katui. So different varieties, so different notes come out of it. But the red, mostly from Brazil, is sweet. So so many roasters, even locally, I won't say who they are, big roasters. So we've got Post Commons. I know they roast their own as well too, but great business as well. But if you over roast the coffee, if you let it sit in there longer, that's where the bitterness comes from. The cherry is naturally sweet, so it has 2 beans in each cherry. So then they strip it off, and then you'll let it dry out. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks to dry. So on our farm, we have a natural process, which I showed you. It's Bruno's dad will actually lay it out, all the cherries on concrete, and then and he would basically walk over it and use a rake to actually turn it. We also have another process where they rip the skin off. It's called the honey process. So it rips the skin off, and then they put it in air beds inside the greenhouse. So then you don't have all the animals and birds and everything else. The thing that with that is people are like, oh my gosh, it's the elements. I was like, it's going to be roasted. It goes to 400 degrees anyways. So, if there is anything, it's going to be a kill effect anyways. But they wash it, they process it. Even after that, they select it and all that. So, that's where the sweetness comes from, though. So if you can get a light roast that can kind of get a lot more notes out of it. We usually do a medium roast, but we do have light roast, and then dark roast gives it a little bit more boldness. But the one thing that we don't do, it's called first crack. So just like popcorn, when you put it in the roaster, usually about 3, it just depends on the bean and the moisture and everything in it, may start popping at about 350, but usually about 380, 385, you'll hear it in the roaster. It starts popping. And what it's doing is releasing that water and that gas inside that bean. It's like popcorn, so second crack happens after it sits in there a little bit longer. So 415, 420, 430, that's when it starts hitting second crack. So it makes another crack in that bean. So that if it's inside our roaster with second crack, we know that we pushed it too far. So it's going to be too dark for us. So that's when the oils and stuff come out instead of being inside the bean. So that flavor profile with that as well too. But the other thing people don't realize, we drink coffee for, of course, taste, but most people drink it, like you said, sugars and everything else.
Stay awake.
The caffeine.
Right.
Exactly. So 2 things affect caffeine for coffee. Elevation. So if it's a low to sea level elevation, then you're going to have more caffeine. Same tree. So what caffeine is, and a lot of people don't realize it, it's a defense mechanism for the tree. So the tree actually creates caffeine for bugs and disease and everything else. So it's protecting itself. So we're at about 2,200, 2,800 feet above sea level. So we're a medium grade coffee. Some of the farms we actually went to in Brazil were like 4,000, 4,500 feet above. So a little bit more. So the thing with that is, if you've ever been in the mountains or anything like that, it's hard to breathe. So you have less oxygen. So of course there's less bugs.
Right.
So that's why the tree doesn't need as much caffeine. So you'll have a little bit less caffeine on the top of the mountain than you would on the bottom of the mountain. So,
and yours is kind of like middle.
It's middle. Yeah, it's middle. And it's, it's grams or, a percentage, 5 to 10% or something like that. But I don't have the actual numbers. But overall, the other thing that affects it too is leaving it sit in the roaster longer. Actually, the same bean If this same bean was in the roaster at a light roast, you're gonna have more caffeine as a light roast. Whereas you leave it into that second crack or right before that, it usually cracks in the cooling bin for us. So that way we know that it's not dark. But anyways, it'll actually cook that caffeine off as well too. So
how about fresh bean versus ground coffee?
The thing with that is I always recommend, one thing is if somebody has a personal grinder at home, you're going to, the aroma that you're going to get at home, restaurants, same thing, or coffee shops, it's always recommended because we do grind some coffee for some of our customers. But if they have a grinder in there and that's the first thing the customer smells when they walk in the door. All of us are like, and some people don't drink coffee. I don't know how, but
I'm like the only coffee drinker here. Maybe I can change that with our new brand
and that's the thing, it's new. It's a good coffee. Max, and I drank it too. I drank Maxwell House, Folgers, my dad drinks some stuff from the base. It was bad. So he drinks our stuff now. So, but overall, like you said, it doesn't need the sugars and the sweeteners and stuff like that. If people would just see the process of Ethiopia, poverty, a lot of those farms and stuff like that. These people are working hard, and some of their coffee, the selection of the green coffee is phenomenal. There's no defects on the coffee. There's nothing. Sometimes you get, from the patios and stuff like that, some of the roasters get de-stoners, so you actually get pieces of concrete that go in with it. So of course we're picking that out too.
Right.
Bad beans, sour beans, stuff like that. They sort it all out, but they want to make sure that they give us or anybody around the world the best coffee possible, because they know if they give the best they give, that they're going to get the best back. So, and that's one thing that Bruno's actually done in Brazil. That was what, like, his dad used to go to market, and let's just say that the coffee is phenomenal, but the people that he presents it to be like, it's okay. So then they'll give him the it's okay price, instead of they're like, oh my gosh, this is the best coffee I've ever had.
Right.
So the thing that's cool that he's done back in Brazil is he's actually created training to where they actually go to different places, like his dad and some of the other farmers will actually go. And so they know what they have going to market. So he has, teaching and training them all about what they have, instead of, just going in blind, so they actually know what they have and they get the best price possible. So
you guys get things from all over the world, Africa, South America. How does it come to the warehouse in Edwardsville, and then what do you guys do with it?
So, for us, we actually partner with other, there are some people that we partner with in the States already that we pull coffee from, but as far as we go, we actually load it on a container in Santos, Brazil, and then the container goes to New York. So on the water, just like you see,
right
on the water,
it's
with
a pretty
all the
long
containers.
journey. I think
it's like 18 to 20 days.
Yeah.
Of course, depending on the seas.
Right.
And then it goes to New York, and then New York, it goes to that yard. The yard puts it on a train or a rail, and then it comes down to St. Louis, and then St. Louis actually takes it onto a truck, and then the truck comes. And the crazy thing about it is, and people don't realize it, so in Brazil, they actually have a conveyor that goes over the top of their head. They take it on their head, they walk it to the front of the container, they stack it. So we don't have that container here. So it's hand unloading. We'll stack it. So like the beginning of the container, we'll just take one at a time and either drop it or take it into the warehouse, or we'll start pallets, and then we'll have a forklift to where we can go inside. But as it goes into the container, but yeah, one of the reasons they do that, so they all actually paper line the container, and then they'll actually spray it down, because so they're not on pallets, because that way no bugs or anything like that. It's a customs thing, or we've actually had the FDA come in and check. Like last year, they came in and took like samples from like 20 or 25 bags. Because there was a history of, like, not necessarily like all around the world, there was a lot of coffee coming to the US that had a lot of mold. So that's why they were going in and testing it. So we passed with flying colors. So that was a blessing. So, but yeah, it goes from
a little bit of a nerve-wracking day.
Sure. The funny thing was, craziest thing about that was, she was a tall, dark-haired lady, and had a little bit of an accent. And she's from Brazil. It was crazy.
Yeah, that
But
is
worked for
wild.
the FDA. I'm like, what are the odds
Right.
that
Yeah.
you were the person coming in and checking the
Right.
coffee? But it was funny because Bruno's son was there, and she started speaking Portuguese to him, and he's like, what? So, but
Probably doesn't happen a lot
oh
around
no,
here. Yeah.
no, not at all. So
Talk about the family and how how Minas got started.
yeah, so in 1935, Bruno's grandfather, Benedito Inacio, started the farm. So if you actually go to Senator Jose Bento, which is the town that they lived in, and their farm's right outside of town, there's a lot of things named after him. So it's kind of cool. I think he was the mayor at one point in time. And, so it was kind of cool. The government building actually has his name on it. But yeah, started in 1935. And then his dad, Jose, actually took it over. And then Bruno, actually at 16, I believe, they actually went in and they cut the whole farm down because a lot of times you'll cut it back or prune it as they get older, because trees last 20, 30 years. But you still, at one point in time, you realize that it's not producing as much. So once you plant a tree, it takes about 3 to 5 years to actually harvest. And then it produces once a year. And what they'll do is they'll go through the first part and they'll pull it, like they'll look for red, and then they'll pick the red and they'll cherry pick. So at the end of the year, and some of the videos that we have on our YouTube and Instagram and our Facebook, you'll see that we're stripping off. Well, that was in June. That's actually their winter. You'll see that Bruno has a hat on, a stocking hat. But at the end of the season, they'll strip everything off because they don't want it. So that way the tree is clean, and then they can, they'll actually blossom everything. The thing that's crazy with the coffee trees, is the actual cherries stick so close to the branch. So you'll see flowers and everything else. I mean, it's incredible. I didn't go there when it was floral, but Bruno said it's like no other. I mean, just that smell of the flowers and stuff like that. But yeah, so 1935, the farm started, Benedito Nacho, and then his dad, Jose. And then Bruno, they, like I said, replanted everything. And I think 2000, I believe so. And yeah, I think it was 2000. So then he actually came to the States. Everybody wants to know how a Brazilian coffee farmer came to Edwardsville, Illinois.
Right.
He followed his wife. So smart man.
Sure.
She got a job at Worldwide Technologies at the warehouses there. So when he came here, it's kind of funny. It kind of goes back to a story with Judy Birtles from African Vision of Hope. He's like, he's actually worked for the 3 major car corporations around the world, like South Africa, Germany. They stayed in different places. I know Germany was a couple of years there, and South Africa as well, but kind of moved around. And then I think she works for Corning right now. But anyways, he's like, what do I do? And it's like, somebody said, Judy said, your dad has a coffee farm in Brazil. Why don't you start a coffee company? So again, it's just trying to get everything in place. And he started, like I said, April 28, 2018. And again, phenomenal coffee. I mean, that's where I even started with it. Just, I'm like, man, that would be something to be awesome to be a part of.
Yeah. So 5-6 years in, where are we going in the next 3 to 5 years, do you think?
I mean, the thing with that is, so they actually, back in 2021, so Bruno was actually selling green coffee. So we still sell green coffee to roasters, and he was selling it around the nation and actually around the world as too. But he went up to Michigan and was selling coffee to one of the roasters up there, Uncommon Coffee Roasters. And the guy was like, you know what, I'm just done. So it's been actually 30 years this year, 2024. So they started in 1994. So it's right in Saugatuck, Michigan. They have a cafe there, and then they actually have a roastery in Douglas right down the road. And he said, hey, would you be interested? So that relationship he built with the owner, knew that he would do right by him and actually take it even further. So that was the one thing that happened in 2021. And just continue to grow with, I mean, we've gotten saturated in the area a lot. So we partner with a lot of great people, just trying to meet people where they're at. So we do coffee, we do cups, we do syrups. One thing we brought on, because, we needed something that would offset coffee, because I'm not a coffee drinker. So Lotus is actually a natural energy product that we brought on board as well too. So we actually supply that to our wholesalers as well too. So But yeah, we're in Peel, all 3 Peels in the area.
Right.
They do our cold brew. They've done a coffee porters there. Old Harold in Collinsville, we've done a bourbon barrel coffee with them. So we we have one going right now. So for Smoking on Main. So Smoking on Main is in Collinsville, where they have a big barbecue competition, the 27th and 28th, I believe. It's always the last weekend in July. So we're going to actually do that bourbon barrel cold brew for Smoking on Main. But we take his bourbon barrels and we basically take green coffee and put it inside there, and we spin it every day. So what it does is there's no alcohol in it. Now just the alcohol that was like absorbed in the wood. So it actually, the coffee. So one myth to go, so many people think that if they put their coffee in the fridge, that it's going to keep it fresh longer. So,
Right.
and I told you this. So if
you debunked the myth,
yes,
that's what I've been
yes.
keeping
So,
mine.
yeah. So coffee wants to be in a dark bag, and it needs to be air. So this is a zipper bag. So you would just pull this and then you're going to reseal it. So yeah, if you put it in the fridge, and let's just say you got fish in there, it's almost like baking soda. It will absorb all of the flavors and smells that you have in your refrigerator. So and that'd be like, oh my gosh, that coffee's horrible.
Right.
So that's the one thing that we definitely want people to understand, that don't put your coffee in the refrigerator. But anyway, so the bourbon barrel coffee, and we put it in there and we rotate it. And we're going to do that for Smoking on Main. Chocolate Covered Creations in Manhattan's in Granite City. We had What the Cup in Troy, and we were partnering with Rachel and Co. And but they've decided to do their own roasting now too. So
okay.
And we always, we want to meet people and support people where they're at, because it's local. So you do you. It's kind of like I was at the Cokia Mounds yesterday, and so many people, we were grinding out and had vests on, and my buddy was doing with the fire suit, and I'm like, look, it's all about you. You do you. And we'll support you where you're at. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, it's a really interesting, fascinating business story, and we're going to learn a lot more about it. We're kind of just starting this partnership and kind of seeing where it goes. We certainly appreciate that. This was a fun day, because I'd normally, just grab the coffee and drink it, but I mean, it was a whole process of, I think this is, maybe the first dry. You smell it like 2 or 3 times.
So yeah. So the first part is a dry smell. So, and we basically take this from the Specialty Coffee Association. They've got a scoring chart, how you score coffee. And Bruno will not bring in coffee into the U.S. It's not like an 80 or above. So, a lot of your store bought and some of the other brands are in the 70s. So, and it's that people want caffeine. That's what they want. So yeah, you're going to dry smell it first. And again, just kind of saying, hey, you know what, which one do you like the most by smell? And then when you wet it, you actually may get some different notes. So it changes a little bit just by wetting it. So what that is you do a coarse grind when you do a cupping like that. Coffee tasting. My wife does not like the word cupping. Sorry. Give her a shout out. But then we take that about 4 minutes in, we take that crust off, or you'll actually take a spoon and then you're going to break that. Then once you've broken it and everything, you get down in it, you actually get more smells. And then we take that crust off the top, the coffee off the top, and then 10 minutes in, just so it's not so hot, you do a tasting. And then again, I told you in Brazil what he'll do a lot of times, and other shops as well, they'll put like 3 cups. So you'll have 15 cups on the table instead of 5. And the reason that is, one bad apple spoils a bunch. One bad bean could, if we didn't get the right bean out there, if it's a sour bean. So you want to make sure that you're consistent in the cup as well too. So, but it's a great experience. I mean, we take you through the exact same thing that we go through. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. So the one big shout out I want to give to is, and he's a man after my own heart, is Mike Weller, AP Cigar. I mean, that's how
he's
we
the
came
one that
together.
connected us. Yeah,
so,
absolutely. So,
it's awesome because he's truly somebody that wants to connect people with people. And that's my heart. I want to do whatever I can for people and meet you where you're at, and really give you an experience. And, Mike, he's never wanted anything back. He just wants to help. When he finds somebody good and somebody that has a great product, and it two go hand in hand. He wants somebody that's good, but he also wants a good product. So because he's going to present that to you, he's not, if it's, it's not a good person and it's a great product, he's still not going to connect the two. So it's got to be, 2 and 2. So But yeah, Mike has his coffee.
He's the one that took the photo.
Yes,
So
he is. So he's the one that has a great coffee too.
Table 36,
the Table
absolutely.
36 coffee,
fantastic. So
but just he's a great guy, connects people with people, and I mean, our competition is not Post, and it's not other roasters that are out there. Course actually, over in St. Charles, phenomenal guy, got great product as well, and partners with people from around the world too to bring coffee in, and but he's not our competition. He roasts.
Right.
First Crack is a great friend of ours in St. Louis. They buy green coffee from us. But again, they're not our competition. Our competition is the big boys.
Right.
We want to teach you the craft of coffee, because the love and hard work that goes into it. I'm using Bruno's word. It's evident with each sip, and that's what it is. I showed you the video, and it's actually a 4-minute on our Instagram that Bruno does an animated infographic. And it basically what we talked about earlier, how it's planted, how long it takes to plant, and then how we cultivate it, how we process it, and then where it goes and on a ship. And all of that's on that animated infographic. Yeah. So it's a cool watch for about 4 minutes if you don't know where coffee comes from and how it's taken care of. But yeah, we got a lot of great pictures and videos. I was in the back of the farm for it was crazy. We were on the big farm with the pecan shaker coffee picker, and it's just got tines. So I'm in the back of a vehicle. It was kind of like an El Camino, but it was a newer Toyota. So I'm like on the top of the roof, and I'm just holding my phone for 15 minutes. And but I just wanted people to see. So if anybody ever has 15 minutes, I mean, you can watch it in snippets, but you actually get to see us going through that whole coffee farm for 15 minutes. It's phenomenal. I mean, it's just, Brazil is a beautiful country. There's a lot of pictures that you think that it's almost like a backdrop behind you, but it's not. I mean, it's actual legit pictures. One thing that was really cool and special to me, Bruno's dad, Jose, bought me a little tree. I'm actually getting ready to do a video for that, kind of like a snippet video to show people, but it was a tree in honor of my mom. So my mom passed in 2019, and she was always the person that would go around with me and stuff like, so she would have been going to coffee shops and everything else with me. So it would have been really cool. So right. I wanted to plant a tree in honor of her on the farm. Well, towards the last day or two or whatever, I can't remember when he bought it, but he set it by the door, and we forgot. I'm like, oh man. So then he sent me a picture, and it's even more of an honor because his Jose's farm is actually about 2 miles from the actual big coffee farm. So you got to go down a dirt road and to the farm, but he actually planted it right outside his door.
Oh, wow.
So the thing that was crazy is, I guess the soil was so fertile. I said 3 to 5 years to harvest.
Right.
They already had coffee. So that was in 22. So they've already gotten coffee off of it,
like really fast.
In 2 years.
2 years.
So,
yeah.
But what an awesome testimony. I mean, that's just something near and dear to my heart, right. For him to actually plant it right there. And I've got a really good video to where they were pulling the cherries off. It's a yellow versus a red, but hey, I just very honored to be a part of it, and that it's always going to be on that farm. So,
I mean, I think this is a great example of how the entrepreneurial journey can just take you some amazing places. I mean, you've traveled the world.
So. You do right by people. I mean, I've been to Cuba on mission trip. I've been to Zambia with African Vision of Hope, but yeah, Brazil was definitely an experience. Just do people right and do the right thing, and you're going to be taken care of. So,
well, I think that's a good place to end the episode. Craig, we'll have you on multiple times in the future to talk business.
We'll bring a cupping in.
Yeah, we will. We could do that.
And we'll bring Mike in. So there we go.
Mike's coming on later in the week, but we'll get a whole round table going. Awesome. How about that?
Yeah,
so hey, thanks for coming on the show, Craig. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.